In 28 days, I managed to lose 10 pounds or a little over. But those 10 pounds didn't come off gradually throughout February. They came off at the very end of the month when I made one change to my weight loss journey. If you're wanting to know exactly what I had changed, stick around to the end and I'll tell you then. Before I can reach that point, however, there are 4 areas that I want to address on my first month as a carnivore that I feel are important to moving forward into my particular journey. Those 4 areas are my diet throughout the month of February, as well as my activity levels, improvements that I've noticed, and some trials and difficulties that I've had throughout February. So starting food. What did I eat in February? Like most carnivores, my diet is predominantly composed of meat. On my end, it is largely ground beef, the 73-27 ratio. And largely on that end, I would just make a giant 1-pound patty that I would bake for 40 to 50 minutes, and then I'd eat that with quite a bit of butter. On the occasions where I wasn't eating beef, I was eating salmon and chicken. I also had eggs periodically throughout the month, and I really honed in like the last couple of weeks on trying to make sure I'm eating 2 or 3 every single day that I am eating. And that largely helps with my stomach. I've also, in the last week, started adding bacon in. I have a pork sensitivity, so I decided to try the bacon from my local butcher to see how my body would tolerate that. And so far, there haven't been any adverse reactions. So in the next few weeks, when I go back to the butcher, I'm going to get some more bacon and keep an eye on that as I have my bacon and eggs for breakfast. Outside of the meat, I did try a little bit of like a low pasteurized milk. My stomach does not really agree with it too well. I can drink it in small quantities, but nothing over that really. Otherwise, my body does have a rather adverse reaction. So I typically tend to stay away from dairy, unless it's raw. Like I can handle raw milk just fine. Moving into activity levels, I've largely been sedentary outside of my work. Entire month of February was more me focusing strictly on my diet, what I'm eating and when I'm eating, while also figuring out what type of plans I want to make towards physical activity for March and forward. And I'm taking a more slow approach because I don't want to put my body in a state of shock. So I'm just kind of letting it adapt bit by bit as I'm making all these changes. And so far, it's been doing fairly well. Activity-wise, throughout February, any exercise I got was I took a couple of walks throughout the month, but 5 days out of the week, I work at a nearby facility where I clean it, and that generally has me walking 2 to 3 hours, as well as doing many squats as I'm getting trash bags out of tiny trash cans and moving those bags into a bigger trash can. And I typically go down into a squat, so I'm not actually bending over, so it's more friendly for my back, but it's also a bit of a workout for my lower body as well, so a little bit of exercise right there. When it comes to improvements, some of the biggest improvements that I've noticed is I have more energy, I'm sleeping better, my inflammation has gone down quite a bit, and my skin is starting to clear up after about a month. I do still have a bit of a rash on my face. I don't really know if you can see it. Take my glasses off. I can't really see right now. Everything's blurry, but when my rash is definitely really kicking in, it goes all the way across and just kind of circles my face. And it's red, it's flaky, my skin peels. So not only am I dealing with this, and that's largely cleared up, but I'm also looking into a type of skin moisturizer, like a moisturizer I can use on my skin to maybe see if that can help reduce the peeling, but also trying to make sure I get something that is friendly for my body so that doesn't have any unwanted agents inside of it. Because skin is the biggest organ on the body, and anything you put on your skin does end up inside of you. So it's very important that if you're trying to change your health overall, that you try to keep everything in mind. I do have some issues with fatigue still, no hair loss. Do have a bit of joint pain still, a little bit in my elbow and my wrist, but not as bad as it had been. But so far, a lot of the things I was dealing with, they're still there to a degree, but they're a lot better than they had been before I started the diet. And things that I had a bit of a hard time with, so one of the biggest difficulties throughout the entirety of February is, as someone who is transitioning from a standard American diet into the carnivore diet, I had some issues with my bowels, which is one reason why I'm making sure I'm eating 2 to 3 eggs every single day when I am eating. The eggs acts as a bit as a binding effect that kind of helps make sure that I'm not in the bathroom all day long. And it works for me. I do eat a little bit of pickle throughout the month, dill pickle, sandwich stuffers. I get like a jar, and then I'll eat maybe like 1 or 2 out of those. If I'm feeling kind of like, if I have like a bit of a sweet tooth and I want something kind of sweet, I'll typically eat a pickle or 2. I don't have any adverse reactions to those. And so I'm comfortable eating those every once in a while when I feel the need to. Especially if I'm getting like a real big hankering for something I know would wreck my stomach and would put my journey on a halt because my body would have to recover after eating something that would rip through my immune system. I did drink a couple of sodas, so kind of as a forewarning. Before I started the diet, I was drinking 2 to 3 cans of soda every single day, and throughout the entirety of February, I had 3 bottles of Coke. So for me, that's a massive improvement, and I no longer get headaches from not drinking soda. So I'm at the point where I don't really have as much as a craving for them, though I did try them a couple of times just to see if my perception of the soda, if how it tasted versus when I was drinking it regularly versus not drinking it at all, how the taste would change, and it changed a lot. Like, I tried the soda, and it tasted like dirt and syrup, and it was disgusting. I still drank it because I'm a Coke addict, and that kind of sounds kind of funny if you put it that way, because you know you're thinking about drugs, but it's not a drug. I'm talking about Coca-Cola, but soda. I'm very much addicted to that one brand of soda, and I've largely stayed away from candy. I had a few days where I actually ate a little bit of it, and my stomach let me know it disapproved almost immediately after eating it. One day I had a sour stomach for like 3 days after eating like 2 cookies, so learned my lesson there. I'm going to stay away from the cookies, or at least I'm going to try to. But for the most part, things have been progressing smoothly the entirety of the month. But the big change I did make was towards the end when I realized that my weight was staying consistently at 255 pounds, despite making sure I was doing intermediate fasting. I was fasting 20 hours, eating 4 hours. And I was sticking with it. I wasn't having any soda. I wasn't having any candy. I was typically eating 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of meat every single day with a lot of like fats. And my weight was staying consistent. So I was trying to kind of figure out what's going there, and then I kind of swung back and thought that, you know, type 2 diabetes runs in my family. It's very, very heavy inside of my own bloodline. So it made me kind of stop and think, is like, there was probably a good chance that I'm insulin resistant, and one thing I do know that can kind of help reset the body is fasting, like full fasts. So for about a week, I did something that I like to call rolling 36s, where I would fast for 36 hours, each 12 hours, and then I would fast for another 36. And when I started doing that, the weight started to come off rapidly. And once I stopped the fast, it has so far stayed at 247 pounds, which is where it's been the last 4 to 5 days. It's been roughly 247, 248, and it's been staying there, which is where I'm at right now. I'm at 247 pounds from basically 260. So that's a pretty good drop on my end. So that's exactly what I did towards the end of the month, is that I was fasting. I was going one day, sometimes even 2 days without actually eating and letting my body go through the glycogen stores, kind of burn through all of that and dip into my fat, as so that it could also go through and start repairing any of the damages that are inside my body, so it had a chance to reset and heal, and then kind of swinging back and forth, which is another reason why I started adding in a lot more eggs, because eggs are a good way to break a fast for me. And so that's kind of what I was doing, and it worked pretty well on my end. So going into March, that's one thing I actually want to try and do, is consistently fast throughout March, as well as kind of hone in more on my diet and try to keep things going smoothly from there. So this is just kind of like the entirety of February recap, just kind of like what I did all last month. I was going to do this video a little earlier, but I had a sinus infection for a little over a week, so that kind of got in the way, so a little late. But if you liked anything that was in here, or, you know, just leave a like down below, leave a couple of comments. I love talking to all of you, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye!